With the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie that was in theaters recently, it's only befitting that we talk about the cursed child himself, Yuta Okotsu. When he first entered Jujutsu High, Yuta had a haircut similar to Megumi Fushiguro and tired eyes. He wears a typical school uniform, except his jacket is white and loose-fitting with sleeves that stop halfway. In the Jujutsu Kaisen fanbook, it's revealed his top was white because he was considered a problem child, and white is easy to spot. But when Yuta makes his cinematic return, he has a short, slick back cut along with a more serious, stoic expression. Taking another piece from the fanbook, in a Q&A portion, Gege mentions that Yuta's hairstyle changed because it was too similar to Megumi's. Now let's talk about his immense power and curse technique. There is a bit of confusion regarding it though. Originally, the loved one he cursed does pass on, but the entity that inhabited Rika remains. It has the same childlike, jealous personality of the spirit Rika, but acts as a storage for cursed tools. Despite being such a terrifying looking spirit, it's an interesting juxtaposition to her bubbly self. Acting independently of Rika's spirit, the vessel known as Rika can fully manifest when Yuta wears his ring, but only for 5 minutes. But besides being essentially a Shinigami and sentient storage, Rika also lends its practically bottomless curse energy to Yuta. But before we go further, don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe because as always, Plot Armor has you covered. Rika can also copy curse techniques, even those that are hereditary. But that's not to say Yuta himself doesn't have any abilities of his own. He is an expert of swordsmanship, can channel cursed energy into his weapon, and can use reverse curse technique very easily. In fact, he's able to use it in his first year, which is a feat in itself. Reverse curse technique is very rare and valuable. Not to mention, being able to heal is extremely useful with his close quarters fighting style. That being said, it was only recently revealed that Yuta can use a domain expansion. We haven't seen much of it in play, but it's certainly an ability that must rival other special grades. Perhaps his innate sorcerer power is due to his Michizane-Suwagara relations. This ancestry means that he is distantly related to Satoru Gojo. Arguably, the two share a similar concept regarding their cursed energy. Satoru has practically limitless cursed energy reserves. In contrast, Yuta has almost bottomless cursed energy via Rika, but can still exhaust himself. There are two techniques that operate similarly, but with different capacities for cursed energy. Early life, pre-JJK. Since we've covered his moveset, it's time to discuss how Yuta and Rika came to be. Yuta's story begins with tragedy. At age 10, he loses his best friend, Rika Orimoto, in a tragic car accident. To add to the misery, this happens on Yuta's birthday. In fact, Rika gives him a ring he later uses to manifest Rika's spirit. It becomes very important for him in combat. The ring itself acted as a marriage proposal between the two. It's a love story that really ties together the theme of undying love. However, Yuta is unable to truly accept her death. Unable to accept her death, Yuta curses Rika. She becomes a special grade cursed spirit, powerful enough to be dubbed as the Queen of Curses. Rika's spirit follows Yuta for the next 6 years, during which Yuta learns to control the massive curse technique. Rika's overprotective nature is what exactly lands Yuta into the Tokyo Jujutsu High branch. In November of 2016, Rika stuffed several of Yuta's classmates into a locker, causing severe injury. One would assume a curse falling someone would warrant sorcerer intervention to begin with, but apparently not. This ends up attracting the attention of Jujutsu higher-ups. Originally, the plan was to execute Yuta due to how strong his cursed spirit was. Thankfully, Satoru Gojo convinces them to allow Yuta to attend the school. His secret execution and powers he cannot control at first mirrors Yuji perfectly. In fact, it's a common consensus that he was the main character before Yuji. Yuta is unwilling and even attempts to kill himself. Only Satoru persuades him, saying he'll be lonely otherwise. Plus, Jujutsu High can be a place where he learns how to control his power. Truthfully, Satoru is more right about that than he realizes, especially later on. However, his first day didn't go smoothly. The other students, Panda, a cursed corpse, Maki Zeinin, a sorcerer from one of the big 3 sorcerer families, and Toge Inumaki, a user of cursed speech, sense Yuta is cursed and immediately attack him. During which, Maki cheerfully remarks that this is a place to learn about curses, not a place for people who are cursed. Maki isn't wrong, but she really can be blunt at times. Satoru then explains Jujutsu High, having not done so before, very typical of Satoru. Clearly teacher of the year material. To no one's surprise, the students are beaten up by Rika. Satoru also reveals their class activity for the day. This involves the 4 students splitting into pairs. Panda and Toge are one group, while Maki and Yuta are the other. Yuta is somewhat apprehensive, but still optimistic to work with Maki. Maki though tells Yuta she would have bullied him too, all despite getting rocked by Rika earlier. Talk about being able to dish it and serve it. She lectures him about his place in the school. Being passive, being a victim, won't get him anywhere, which seems to be a philosophy he carries carries with him even into a game to the death later on. Now, what exactly is their classroom activity? Recently, at an elementary school, children have gone missing. There's been at least 2 children attacked by curses there. Their mission is to exorcise the curse, rescue the children, and recover any dead. It's explained schools are breeding grounds for curses due to their strong, overwhelmingly negative emotions and memories there. Creating a curtain, Satoru swiftly leaves. Maki takes down several weak curses before the duo head into the school. Interestingly enough, no curses immediately attack them. Rather bizarre for a curse-infected area. Being a keen observer, Maki realizes it's due to Rika. She asks to check his ID. Yuta isn't grade 1, he's a special grade, a very surprising label for someone who just enrolled. For context, grades are a numerical system meant to determine a sorcerer's ability. The ranking goes from 4, the weakest, to special grades, which are considered to be unique, destructive forces. There are only 4 registered special grades, one of whom Yuta later squares off against. That being said, let's dive back into Yuta's first exorcism. Both Maki and Yuta are caught off guard and swallowed by a curse. Yuta is understandably freaked out. If anything, Yuta feels like the average non-sorcerer during Zero. The Jujutsu world is so new and understandably scary. But they aren't alone. The 2 children Satoru mentioned are there. However, they're both cursed, something Maki points out and then promptly passes out. This just leaves Yuta, who is immune to curses. Interestingly enough, this is probably why Yuta can tolerate Rika's extremely powerful presence. Maki does regain consciousness though. She asks Yuta why he even enrolled. We then get a very epic moment where Yuta explains he wants to be helpful. In his own words, "I want to believe that it's okay to keep living." It's a testament to how badly Yuta wants to do good, despite being afflicted with a curse that is violent and unpredictable. Yuta's answer is admirable. He has such a destructive power, and yet he wants to harness it, learn it, and be helpful despite its nature. It is safe to say this curse does end up as Yuta's best ally. Speaking of Rika though, she manifests once Yuta wears her ring. Rika bursts through the curse, allowing Yuta to escape with the children and Maki, bringing them to Satoru. In his first mission, Yuta is truly the MVP. The injured will recover, but Yuta makes a connection between his curse and his past. He remembers the marriage promise he made to Rika. Yuta remarks that he may be the one cursing her. If only Yuta knows how right he is. But to that, Satoru replies that he believes love manifests the worst of curses. The young cursed sorcerer then makes a resolution to learn more about the nature of Rika's curse, and this is the first taste of Yuta wanting to not only help Rika, but himself. Slowly, his confidence is returning. 3 months later, there is some good news. Yuta's execution has been put on hold. Regrettably, the higher-ups do tear into Satoru for even letting Yuta use Rika, which is fair. Rika did cause massive damage at Yuta's old school. At this point, it's even hard to determine if the young sorcerer can even control her. In fact, not much is even known about Rika considering she comes from a non-sorcerer family. Clearly, Yuta is a factor for the Queen of Curses manifesting in the first place. The very nature of how she manifested as a powerful curse is a mystery. Meanwhile, Yuta learns swordsmanship from Maki while trying to master channeling Rika through a katana. Maki gives him a hard time naturally. She is skilled with cursed tools after all. The eventual bond between them is something that really shows Yuta's growth. He begins as this introverted, scared kid and evolves into a capable Jujutsu sorcerer. However, it must be known that a katana becomes Yuta's signature weapon. After his talk with the higher-ups, Satoru gives Yuta the privilege to accompany Toge on what would be a solo mission. He is really there to learn more about curses in order to unravel Rika's. Plus, he has the added handicap of not being able to use Rika during this. Yuta can only channel her through his sword. Otherwise, both Satoru and Yuta will be executed, a bold gamble that Satoru takes on his student. Their shared assignment takes place in an abandoned shopping mall. There, Yuta's exposed to the raw power Toge's technique has. With just one word, he obliterates a group of low-level curses. Scary to imagine he's ranked lower than Yuta. Unfortunately, the curtain doesn't fall, meaning there's still something that needs to be exorcised. With that, a powerful curse manifests behind them, catching the pair off guard. The curse has a bizarre look, covered in fur and has exaggerated, almost comical features, which seemingly makes it look almost harmless. And yet, its strength is even noticed by Yuta, who notes it's different from the bird-like curses before. Yuta and Toge escape, but Toge decides to head back and face the curse, even if he must go alone. Though Yuta does gain the courage to go with him. The situation is a bit dire considering they left behind Toge's throat medicine and weren't expecting such a high grade curse to begin with. This is no longer the simple mission Satoru told Yuta it was. Regardless, Yuta takes on the curse. Understandably, Rika's overwhelming curse energy agitates the curse, who immediately begins to attack. Yuta is able to channel Rika into his sword, but isn't skilled enough to completely cut through the curse. It does provide a good distraction though, at least enough for Yuta to grab Toge's throat spray and throw it to him. Toge uses a speech command, destroying the curse for now. Afterwards, Yuta reflects on the fact that once he unravels Rika's curse, he'll return to being just a normal human. But until that happens, he'll do his best to help others. As previously mentioned, Yuta's origin story really has him grow into such a capable sorcerer. He's bonded with such a powerful, violent curse, but still wants to do good in spite of that. During the fight, Suguru Geto, another special grade sorcerer, picked up Yuta's student ID. Interestingly enough, the two will clash during a rather violent attack later. He seemingly takes an interest in Yuta's curse, which is pretty typical for Suguru's curse technique. Suguru's ability allows him to control curses, a curse manipulation technique. But more on the correlation between Suguru's power and his interest in Yuta later. Once Yuta is back at Jujutsu High, he's subjected to more harsh training with Maki, training that will soon come in handy. Several days later, Yuta is the first to notice Suguru's presence. However, it's disregarded by his fellow students, with Maki suggesting his curse detection is faulty from Rika's immense cursed energy. Suguru and his fellow sorcerers then make a flashy entrance. Suguru would then make a beeline for Yuta, introducing himself and pushing his almost genocidal ideals. His friendly nature is such a strange contradiction to the fact that he all but campaigns for the eradication of non-sorcerers, as if he believed he could reach Yuta through charm. Through the very fact both are considered special grades. Yuta finds it disgusting. Suguru outright tells the young sorcerer he wants to kill all non-sorcerers. Suguru is also aware of the other students, even referring to Maki as the Zenin family failure. And in typical Suguru behavior, he also calls her a monkey. This is the last straw for Yuta. He tells Suguru he won't help him because the sorcerer is demeaning his friends. Admirable to see Yuta sticking up for his classmates even if they attacked him on his first day. Right after, Suguru declares war. At sundown on December 24th, Suguru's attack will take place, something he dubs as the Night Parade of 100 Demons. Before jumping into the attack itself, I'll just say it's interesting Suguru seemingly takes the name from Japanese folklore. This event involves 1,000 curses to be released at both Shinjuku and Kyoto. The curses will be commanded to kill and obviously tall order for the sorcerers to take care of. But just as quickly as he arrived, Suguru leaves to get crepes at the behest of his group. A very anticlimactic departure. You can't say Suguru isn't a gift giver though. He leaves the school to deal with several curses. However, let's swing back to Suguru, his curse technique, and Yuta. Suguru himself recognizes that his attack has a strong chance of failure, unless he's able to kill Yuta and take his curse, Rika, as his own. Really, Suguru with Rika's power would be a combo to rival even Satoru. Suguru's true intention is to isolate Yuta, forcing the rookie sorcerer into a fight Suguru believes Yuta cannot win. Several months later, on the day of Suguru's attack, Maki and Yuta are the only first years at the school. They have a brief conversation pertaining to Maki's family, her determination to prove them wrong, and the fact she cannot see curses. Of course, Yuta sees her as someone to look up to. Despite her lack of natural talent and the toxic Zenin family, Maki is still resilient. Yuta even offers to help Maki in her endeavor against her family. It's a sweet moment we see between two people who had a rocky start, you could say. Unfortunately for them though, Suguru would then drop a curtain over the school, signaling the Night of 100 Demons has begun. The darkness the curtain provides is so thematic to the battle at hand. Maki is the first to confront Suguru, who makes quick work of her. Meanwhile in Shinjuku, Suguru's associates prepare to keep Satoru busy. Though Satoru is able to work out that Suguru's after Yuta, so he sends Toge and Panda to assist. It comes across as a move to help Yuta. He is new to the sorcerer world, but really, they're just meant as motivators, emotional investment for Yuta to bring out Rika's true power. In fact, both Toge and Panda are bodied by Suguru. Yuta would then arrive to see the aftermath. His friends are greatly injured and just lying at his feet. Toge even tells Yuta to run. Remarkably, Yuta doesn't. He's so overcome with rage, manifesting Rika fully for a second time. With tears in his eyes, he tells Suguru, "I'm gonna kill you." The two special grades clash, but Yuta is able to use reverse curse technique on his friends. Suguru commends him for it. Reverse curse technique is a rather complex, hard to use ability. Therefore, it is a feat in itself, especially considering Yuta is only a first year. But the fight isn't over. Suguru unleashes a horde of curses, copying studying Togei's cursed speech, Yuta dispels the curses. Interestingly enough, Rika is able to mimic techniques, even ones that are inherited through bloodlines. However, Yuta notes Togei's cursed speech is hard to use. That being said, Yuta is most likely only able to copy Togei's ability due to the insane amount of cursed energy Rika has. Suguru is impressed, but nonetheless continues to fight Yuta. The rookie sorcerer begins to pick up speed, keeping up with Suguru. Unfortunately, his sword breaks. The amount of cursed energy Yuta was flowing through the sword proved to be too much. But this doesn't stop Yuta. He punches Suguru. The force is enough to knock the special grade down. Suguru then prepares to launch a massive amount of curses at Yuta. Specifically, 4,461 curses rolled into one. Suguru is so sure that this will kill Yuta that he says, "It's a good thing I came to kill you before you learn how to use Rika properly." If anything, his comment is foreshadowing. Yuta creates a binding vow with Rika. He expresses his undying love for her. Then, he says he'll follow her into the afterlife. In exchange, she must unleash her full power to defeat Suguru. Rika is brought into a frenzy and fires off a blast that not only mortally wounds Suguru, but destroys his mob of curses. This is perhaps the most defining moment for Yuta. This is when he grows into his special grade label. When Yuta comes to, he is surrounded by his fellow classmates. Due to his healing, they're all relatively unharmed. Panda is missing both arms though. That aside, Yuta sees Rika and realizes what he must do. He prepares to join Rika, but to everyone's surprise, her monstrous appearance disintegrates. All that's left is Rika before her death. Finally, the curse from Rika has been lifted. In fact, Satoru arrives and explains just that. Yuta was the one who cursed her because he was unable to accept her death. Having now come to terms with it, Rika is able to pass on. Yuta is distraught at first because he was the one who cursed her. However, Rika doesn't let him hold blame. Before she fully passes on, she hugs him. Rika comforts him by saying she was happier the last 6 years than when she was alive. The spirit known as Rika Orimoto then passes on. Later, Yuta is seen still wearing the ring Rika gave him. It's a sweet ending to the origin of Yuta before he appears as Yuji Itadori's executioner. Studying abroad, Yuji's extermination arc. Before he is appointed to kill Yuji, Yuta studies abroad for a time with Miguel, who was one of Suguru's commanders. While in Africa, Yuta not only learns how to utilize his cursed energy, but he also looks for any remnants of Miguel's black rope. This cursed tool is used to nullify the effects of any cursed technique it encounters. Due to Miguel's fight with Satoru and how long it took to weave black rope, there isn't any more, which spells trouble for Satoru and his students later on. Speaking of which, let's dive into more recent events. Because of the Shibuya incident, curses are released in Tokyo, and with that comes Yuta's return. He swiftly dispatches a curse, saving a little girl. Yuta keeps a calm, cheerful demeanor and leads her away. Now, what's interesting is that Rika still accompanies him. This is because the vessel for Rika stayed with Yuta, becoming his innate technique. Afterwards, Yuta meets with the higher-ups. His expression drops to a serious, stoic demeanor, a stark contrast to earlier. That being said, Yuta expresses his desire to kill Yuji in revenge for Togei losing an arm in Shibuya. His return feels as if Yuta has been hardened in his time abroad. He seemingly has no issue with killing another student. The now second-year sorcerer is able to catch up with Yuji, who is accompanied by the death-painting womb, Choso, as the two fight Naoya Zenin. Like Suguru, his presence is felt before Yuta is even seen. All three combatants sense his overwhelming cursed energy. Yuji comments that it's like Satoru's except only creepier. Yuta does make quite an entrance though. He jumps from his perch, literally shattering concrete and creating a massive crater. Realizing Yuta is his executioner, Yuji tries to escape. However, Yuta is able to keep up with him. In desperation, Yuji punches a car at the special grade sorcerer, but being Yuta Okotsu, he survives. Yuta then gloats that he has more cursed energy than even Satoru Gojo, but he can still exhaust his cursed energy reserves. To further enforce this, Yuji notes that Yuta's entire being, including his sword, are constantly radiating cursed energy. The very ominous nature of it feels almost like a callback to the monstrous energy Rika radiated. During their fight, Yuji barely manages to avoid Yuta's sword swings. However, Yuji is able to break Yuta's katana. Just before he can try and escape a second time, Rika traps Yuji in his place, and boy was Yuji surprised by this. This allows Yuta to finally stab Yuji, seemingly killing him. He brings Yuji's body back to the fight between Choso and Naoya. He knocks Choso out and offers to heal Naoya. In exchange, Naoya must tell the higher-ups of Yuji's death. The request is relatively simple, at least until Yuji regains consciousness, having been revived by Yuta. Perfect preparation arc. Yuta explains to him that Satoru visited him while he was abroad. Satoru told Yuta that if anything were to happen to him, Yuta is to look over the first and second year students. He especially mentions his concern for Yuji, ergo he had to put on an emotionless mask in order to be Yuji's pseudo-executioner. To kill Yuji, Yuta had to enter a binding vow. Besides Yuji being important to Satoru, Yuta also somewhat relates to Yuji's situation. He has a great power that has been forced upon him, especially in Yuta's case, it was inevitable due to his sorcerer ancestry. Then, Megumi Fushiguro would arrive. Yuta watches as Megumi tries to persuade Yuji to go back to Jujutsu High. Yuji adamantly refuses. Yuta's inner monologue reveals that Yuji held back when they fought. Truthfully, an all-out battle between the two would have been quite the brawl. But anyway, he thinks Yuji is still indecisive as to whether or not he deserves to live. Megumi would explain, Noritoshi Kamo, the most evil sorcerer in Jujutsu history, has enacted a dangerous battle royale, the Culling Game. His sister, Sumiki, is one of the unknowing participants in it. Yuji agrees to help and asks Yuta to kill him if Sukuna, an extremely powerful cursed spirit Yuji is host to, takes over again. To help Sumiki, the group makes contact with Master Tengen, a very old immortal sorcerer. Tengen proves to be a valuable ally. He explains the Culling Game, which is actually a ritual meant to merge humanity with Tengen, and the fact that it has been orchestrated by Kenjaku, an ancient evil sorcerer. Stopping this dangerous act against Jujutsu requires entering the game and adding new rules to nullify the old ones. That being said, Yuta enters the Culling Game first, in order to obtain information. Unfortunately though, the barriers stop cell service, cutting each sorcerer off from one another. Tokyo number 1 Colony, Sendai Colony Arc. While inside the Culling Game, Yuta has already scored 35 points, which he has gained via killing other sorcerers. For example, the reanimated Dhruv Lakdawala, who had scored 91 points themselves. Currently, Yuta is within the Sendai colony. There, he is also protecting a group of civilians. Not only that, but he also must fight off other ancient threats, namely the special grade cursed spirit, Kurourushi, who takes the form of a giant cockroach. His technique allows him to produce a swarm of cockroaches that can eat people, but have individually reinforced cursed energy as well. Just before their fight begins, Yuta works out that his group will need to find a way to travel between colonies and a way to communicate, which means, with Megumi's proposed rules, Yuta believes it'll be 4 in total, meaning he plans to gather 400 points himself. This is a tall order in itself, however, Yuta also plans to kill Kenjaku, if only to spare Satoru the grief of killing Suguru a second time. During his bout with Kurourushi, Yuta realizes he's being watched by 2 other participants. He theorizes them to be skilled players who carry high scores. Really, he's not wrong. One is an ancient, resurrected sorcerer, and the other has the highest curse energy output. In order to hide the fact that he can use reverse curse energy, Yuta ends up biting into Kurourushi, sending reverse curse energy as an output straight into his brain, effectively killing it. Quite possibly one of the most insane moments so far. To say the least, it was very savage. Unfortunately, his technique doesn't go unnoticed by Takako Uro, a reincarnated sorcerer with the ability of sky manipulation. Understandably, another resurrected sorcerer who can fire off his immense curse energy like a beam. Ryu Ishigori joins the brawl between Takako and Yuta. Due to the fact that Ryu's technique works best at long range, Yuta gets into close quarters combat with the ancient sorcerer. Unfortunately, Ryu is a capable fighter even in close combat. Yuta compares the sorcerer's bodily composition to a water tank even. He sends Yuta flying and fires off a blast, however Yuta deflects it with his bare hands. But with fighting 2 powerful sorcerers, Yuta finds himself expending a lot of cursed energy. So he decides to summon Rika. From Rika's storage, Yuta picks out steel arms he wears over his own. He zeroes in on Takako first, forcing her to stay still with Toge's cursed speech, and hits her with a barrage of fists. Yuta continues to fight her. Rika turns its attention to Ryu. As the fight reaches a crescendo, all 3 sorcerers unleash their domain expansion, all at the same time, but their barriers break. Fear only rising in Japan gave way to a resurrected Kurourushi. Ryu takes this moment of confusion to hit Takako with a blast that kills her and severely wounds Kurourushi. The cursed spirit is then finished off once more by Yuta, which leaves only Ryu and Yuta to face off against one another. Yuta uses not only Ryu's own curse technique, but Takako's as well. However, Ryu takes the blows in stride. He even manages to dispel Rika with a powerful enough attack. That being said, Yuta utilizes Takako's technique once more to redirect Ryu's blast back at him, effectively defeating him. Beyond that, we don't know what Yuta is currently up to in the colony, but we can assume he is bent on protecting others and collecting enough points to negate some rules. Despite the grueling nature of the Culling Game, Yuta has managed to retain his humanity and who he is, at least so far. Hopefully there will be more developments for him soon. His original story arc in Zero was insane and immensely entertaining, but with that being said, thank you so much for watching to the end. Until next time, keep that armor on you. I'm KJ. Have a great day. Goodbye.